Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's Law of Self-Defense show. I am, of course, attorney Andrew Branca for Law of Self-Defense. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. So appreciative to have you all here again. We have a very, very special show today. So most of you will know, if you follow our content, that just a few weeks ago, really, I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu down in Colorado Springs. I've been in the self-defense community all my adult life, teaching use of force law, get exposed to a lot of instructors, a lot of disciplines, a lot of gun stuff, a lot of knife stuff, and of course, a lot of martial arts stuff. And for at least the last 10 years, everybody I know in the community has been telling me, hey, in terms of barehanded fighting, the martial art to go with is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And earlier in my life, I had done some Shotokan karate and some Taekwondo. But the more I read about BJJ, the more sense it made to me, not just as a self-defense fighting discipline from a tactical perspective to win the fight, but also because it seemed to me the most legally sound martial art defensive system for reasons we can go into. And I joined a Gracie University school in Colorado Springs, about half an hour from my house. And I chose it for a very, very particular reason. There's lots of branches of the Gracie family. Many of them do great work with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. There are dojos, BJJ dojos, much closer to my house than the Gracie University place I joined in Colorado Springs. By the way, shout out to Professor Ray down in Colorado Springs, Gracie University. Great guy, great instructor. The reason I chose Gracie was because of their particular emphasis on the application of BJJ for self-defense purposes, as opposed to match or competitive purposes. Nothing wrong with those, but my personal interest, of course, is self-defense. And just a few weeks ago, I was down at the dojo, and who came by for a visit but Ryron Gracie, one of the co-founders of Gracie University, and we struck up a conversation. Of course, not being an idiot, I brought a few of my books to give him to read. And I'm pleased to say that Ryron has agreed to come on our show today. And with that, I'll bring him right on board. Hey, Ryron, how are you?
Hi, Andrew. Great to see you. Great to be here.
So, of course, Ryron is a renowned name in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, not just his family, of course, but himself, Gracie University, for all the reasons I just talked about. And folks, if you've never considered BJJ, you're crazy not to do it. And particularly the Gracie University approach. I am a 57-year-old, not in particularly great shape guy, and I found no physical limitations in my ability. Of course, I'm getting my butt kicked right now, being a few weeks old white belt, but I'm learning a lot of technique. I'm learning a lot of skills. The dojo environment is incredibly friendly and opening, and there's no reason that anybody of any age should be at all inhibited about enrolling in BJJ. And I particularly like the Gracie University approach. I don't know if you have a term for it, but this approach where the first steps are to go through this kind of 40 or so exercises that are recorded on a report card. You do all those multiple times. You're not just being thrown on a mat to get beat up by other people. You're actually learning discrete techniques in a very disciplined way. And especially for someone who's a bit older like myself, I find having the opportunity to do that before you're more aggressively rolling with other people in the dojo to be very, very reaffirming.
Yes. Now, just to be clear, in the beginning, you said you're getting your butt kicked right now. What did you mean by that? You're not getting your butt kicked by black belt and brown belt.
No, I'm not getting injured in any way. It just means I have obviously zero mastery of the techniques. And so everybody in the class has a higher level than me. I have more experience in the dojo than me. So of course they have a higher mastery of the techniques, but I'm not suffering any kind of injuries.
There you go. So butt kick kind of implies that it's struggle. It's difficult. You're learning new things. It's physically demanding. And although the intensity is mellow, you still feel a certain level of fatigue at the end of class, or maybe a technique overload could be overwhelming. So those of you that are out there listening, you're not going to get your butt kicked when you walk into a school, especially if it's a Gracie University school, especially if it's a school that has a beginner, an entry level program, which is what we do, which is the card you mentioned.
Right.
The kind of report card is where we mark your progress as you go through these 23 most important lessons. And that's the card you're working on. And that's the card that we put together. It's called Gracie Combatives, the program. And it was specifically designed to help take someone who knows nothing about fighting and give them like a solid understanding of how to keep themselves safe if they were ever to be attacked.
And this here, folks, is the Gracie University website. You can find it at gracieuniversity.com. They have schools, dojos all over the country, all over the world, really. So wherever you are, you ought to be able to find a school that's pretty close to you. And the way it facilitates and eases the entry into BJJ is just amazing. I couldn't recommend it more highly. Whatever age you're at, and they have programs for children, for women, for just the general public. There's something there for everybody, as well as a ton of videos on YouTube as well.
And on this website, just to be clear, there are schools all around the world, but there are also, there's a curriculum on this website. There's white to blue belt, there's blue to purple, and now purple to brown. So there is a very linear curriculum for whoever you are, whatever level you are. And there are thousands of people around the world that are partnering up with a couple friends on a mat in a garage or in their living room, and they're learning these basic movements. And then who knows, maybe 6 months down the road, a school opens in their area, and now they show up already having kind of, built a little bit of an understanding of the foundations. So the online lessons are also very helpful. We have tremendous feedback, and many of the school owners around the world actually started learning online and then found a school and then trained for years. And they said, you know what, I want to teach this stuff. So we're grateful to all those instructors. And one of them is your instructor, Ray, who's in Colorado Springs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I had asked here on because I had a number of videos, camera videos typically, of use of force events involving BJJ-like techniques. Now I have 3 of these I asked here on the comment on, and of course there's some legal aspects to these, and I'll comment on the legal aspects, but I really wanted his expertise in terms of BJJ and technique and self-defense from the practical perspective that he can bring to the table. I want to make clear, of these 3 videos, the first is a success story where everything works out as well as you could possibly imagine. That individual is, in fact, highly trained in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and everything works out great. The second 2 videos, the outcome is bad. Near as I can tell, those people may think they're applying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. They're certainly choking somebody. I have no reason to believe they know anything in particular about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So I wouldn't want the bad outcomes in those cases to be seen as reflecting on the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. It looks to me almost like they watched a couple of MMA fights on TV and were just replicating what they saw on TV. But nevertheless, there's, I think, possible lessons we can learn from those, I guess I would say, less than optimal application of BJJ-like techniques, that a higher degree of training certainly would have been more likely to lead to the positive outcome we see in the first video we're going to watch. And that's why I'm specifically starting with that first video that is a success story, because that's what's possible if you know what you're doing. And if you may have some insight into these, because I know you cover these kinds of events in your own channel, so you may have already done kind of your own analysis of these. Again, as we talked about before the show started, feel free to comment on any facet of any of these that you like. Your insights on any of it is greatly appreciated. So this first video involves a gentleman called Izriz Redzovic, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and he is, the news reports, a third-degree Gracie black belt, professor of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He was in a 7-Eleven getting some Slurpees for his kids,